Welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to be showing you how to pour a concrete foundation that's going to be for a 3-level story house. We're also going to be pouring this smaller sized foundation area. We're going to be explaining the entire detailed process on how we poured everything, worked the concrete areas, did some finishing work to the surface, and then we're also going to be placing the anchor bolts on the top strategically. And so we're going to be providing quite a bit of tips and advice on how to do the whole thing. Please stay tuned. If you want to learn how to set forms and pour all kinds of concrete work, especially like this house foundation we're going to be doing today, then you're in the best place here on YouTube, since that's all we do here at Eternal Rock Construction. Consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and activate the notification bell so that way you don't miss out on any future videos that we'll be uploading every week. This is an 8-foot tall house foundation that we already set all the forms, and then we have rebar throughout the entire wall and all the areas. We're going to be pouring all the concrete with a line pump that has this hook attachment at the end. This actually worked out really great. It was perfect for what we needed. The nice thing about this is that attachment just hooks right over the edge right there, and then it just dumps all the concrete directly into the wall area that we need. So overall, we were very happy with this, and it helped us get the job done. You can see right down there how it's just slowly starting to fill in right at the bottom over there. It's very important that when whoever set in the forms and everything, we followed the proper plans and procedures and everything to make sure everything is nice and reinforced, so that way you don't have any problems. And right here, we're just moving this line pump around as needed. We're starting to pour over here in this corner area, and we're just going to pour as much as we can. We have this lower spot right here where the concrete continues, and it just kind of started to kind of fill in and overflow, so we stopped it right there. So that's the thing, you're going to want to pour this strategically, not because you have like the whole wall, you just want to let all the concrete in there all at once. But we're definitely doing this little by little, and we're only pouring about, I would say, 5 or 6 feet tall of the wall portion first, because in this corner area it's kind of going into that lower spot as well, and so we only did so much, and then that way it doesn't overflow that lower area. So once we did it right there to a certain spot, then we have this vibrator with a long tube. So what we do is we basically put it down in there into all of the areas, and we just let the vibrator do its work. We're going to be doing this quite a bit, every couple feet apart, just putting it right into the concrete, vibrating everything. And this will help us, so that way the concrete, it will just settle, and it will be nice and equal throughout the entire wall. You won't have like honeycomb or things like that. This will help set everything nice. And so we're going to be doing this process as we go along. And at that corner area over there, we stopped the we only poured the concrete up so much, and then from there we're just starting to move that whole attachment with the line pump as we need it. And then once, this is going to help us because the concrete's going to set right there, it's going to firm up a little bit, and then afterwards, once we get done with this first full truck, we're gonna go back, and by the time we go back to that other spot where we started, it should be firm enough to where we can just add on to that wall and continue it all the way up until we need it. As I mentioned before, this is an 8-foot tall concrete foundation. It came out really nice. It just looks pretty amazing, you know, working around everything, just being extra careful because there's just a lot of variables around here. But thankfully everything went very well. The whole process went entirely smoothly. And so that's basically what we're doing right here. We have a couple guys at the top helping out to lift that line pump attachment. We have a couple pump guys as well, you know, helping us to move it around, like you see right here. They have their hoses. I mean, we have quite a bit of obstacles. We have the braces that are supporting the wall. So they have to just be careful, you know, moving their line pump around everything, lifting it up. And the nice thing about that is they have a remote control. So they're able to control it right from where they're at. And there's our line pump over there with the concrete. So this is our first truck, and we're gonna actually be able to advance quite a bit. Once we poured up to a certain point at the upper level wall, then we came down here and we started to pour this lower foundation area. The reason is because we're gonna start getting this ready, so that way we can float the surface, and then we're gonna be placing the anchor bolts. So honestly, a lot of people may think, you know, that pouring a foundation is a lot more intimidating than it is. Honestly, that's what I thought. You know, I thought pouring a foundation like this is just, it's pretty like quite involved, but honestly, it's not really that bad. It's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. It's just pouring the concrete in there until you get it to the certain level, and then from there you just start floating it. In a little while I'm gonna show you that how we establish the level that we need for the bolts, because right here we have that site plan right there. We were able to get it laminated, so that's one thing we recommend. Today it was kind of moist and rainy, so having that plan laminated will help you to, that way you can, you know, have enough time to work around everything. So we're basically following that site plan, and then we're carefully just measuring everything, and once we have the exact location, then we place those anchor bolts right into the fresh concrete. And like you see right there, we're measuring the depth. So we want to make sure that we have enough depth, so that way, because when you think about it, the framer, you know, he's gonna be placing their 2x6s right on top of the surface of this foundation. So we want to have those bolts with enough depth, so that way when they place their 2x6s, they have enough of the screw on top of that, so that way they can bolt down those 2x6s onto the surface. So that's pretty much the process right there of how you finish it. That's why I said, you know, this is a lot less complicated and a lot less difficult than what people think. The hardest part of all of this is setting up those forms and putting all that rebar that you see right there. Establishing the chalk lines, you know, for the level and all those kind of things. You know, like this little corner area right here is like framing and just doing all of that work. So all of that, that's the most difficult part. But other than that, everything else is pretty straightforward. We already poured all this concrete right here, about 5 feet high, and we're just vibrating the whole thing. That way we get a nice quality finish. And that's pretty much the first truck. We got quite a bit of the most part, And right there, we're starting to float that lower foundation area as well. There goes the first truck, and now we're going on to the second truck. So right here, this is that lower area that I was just showing you where we're floating it. And I'm gonna show you how we have the level right there. You see that little nail, it's kind of rusted right there next to the stake. So we have those nails that we put into the side, and that is the level that we're gonna follow with the concrete. So basically, you see right there, it sticks out a little bit. So that way we always have it visually. You see the nail right there, right on top of the concrete surface. So that's how we determine the float of the surface, because we only want to have it so high depending on the site plan that we have to follow. So in this case, it's not going to go all the way to the top of the form board. You know, it's going to be a certain amount down. And then there is a site plan right there. You see it's nice and detailed. It gives us all of the exact location of each of the bolts. And from there, we're just going to take our time and continue the same process. Right here, we had a little bit of overpour. They have a little lower spot right there where those forms are in between, and then right here it goes back up. So as you can see right there, they started to vibrate, and when they vibrate, you know, that causes the concrete to spread further out. So right here, we were like, we had to tell them to stop because it just started to overflow, and this is way more than we need in this lower wall area. So it's not a big deal. I mean, things like this could happen. You just have to have somebody that knows a little bit more of and follow, you know, making sure that they're keeping an eye on that level. Because right here, you know, the pump guy right here, he's just pouring through there. So we also have to let them know, like, you know what, we have those nails right there. That's where the level needs to go. So that way they only pour as close as possible to those nails. Because it actually happened to us here. You know, they poured in some areas a little bit hot, like right here, he's pouring a lot more than that. So then we have to, you know, do more work and move that around or take it out and take it to another low spot. So, you know, that's one tip that we recommend. Whoever you have that is like the foreman, make sure that they just keep an eye on that, and they tell the guys, you know what, just up to this point, and then you can move on. So once you have it poured and everything, you want to just make sure, like I said, you follow that vibrator. You see right there, that's where we have to move all that concrete right there because they just poured. That's where we had that overpour thing. And so they're just moving it around with that float, and he's feeling right there where the nail is, so that way they can push it around and just have it right there, so that way they can just float the surface. And once you do that, then you can place those anchor bolts on the top. So one thing I noticed, you know, with those anchor bolts is that we're dealing with rebar and all kinds of, you know, the rebar that's in there. So sometimes when you put it in there, it's kind of hard and you hit the rebar. So you have to maneuver the bolt as best as you can if you ever find that situation. So that's one thing I noticed, you know, is some of those bolts were a little bit crooked or not exactly straight. We try to get them as straight as possible. But like I said, when there's rebar and things like that, we just have to get it as straight as we can. And then right here, you know, we're actually having the whole surface area cleaned and just have everything nice. This is something where, you know, some people, they will just leave it like that. I mean, they may just kind of clean it a little bit, like a rough clean or whatever. But in this case right here, we're having the whole thing, like, have it nice and clean, removing any excess concrete on the footing area. Just, you know, making sure that we have a nice quality presentation and everything is nice and presentable. So right here, we're doing more of the anchor bolts placement. You can see right there, we have that site plan. So we're just checking that constantly. And right here, we already placed all the anchor bolts in this area. So we have them over here on this return wall that goes back to the taller wall. And we're also floating. One thing that we found, you know, is you may see that the surface of the foundation could be a little rough. So this is the perfect time, you know, where you can just float it and make it as even and nice as possible. We noticed also some corner areas like right there that they didn't really do a good job at the first time when they were just did it like a rough float. But we had them come back, you know, and just float everything in the corner areas and any spots that look a little bit rough. So we had them do that right now when it can easily be done. Like you see right there, he's fixing that corner area. And so we're having that taken care of right now. That way we have the most quality professional workmanship. And you can see right there, look at how that's coming, like that surface, it's really nice. Everything is floated all the way through. So you're gonna get the best quality standard finish foundation with this process that we're doing right here. I asked my supervisor, how does he get those nails, you know, and that chalk line, all because there's only so much, you only got 6 inches of room. And he says, you know, I mean, they do this quite a bit. So they just put a nail at one end, and then they put the nail at the other end, and then they just pull the string line, and then they just snap it. So then that gives them that reference point, and then they just go from there and just start nailing it in. He said that the nails are 18 inches apart from each other, because since the float is approximately 18 inches wide, that way you can fit the float in between the nails and just work everything like how we did right here. This is after we poured the whole thing. This is the top part. We have all of the anchor bolts and everything in the right position where it needs to be. And actually here in a little bit, I'm gonna show you that site plan a little bit more, because these are all like standard J bolts, but there were some other bolts that were special, like that one right there that you see in the corner. There's 2 of them, and then there's some in the corner areas. Right there we noticed that corner came out a little bit rough. Right there you see how it popped out a little bit, so we're gonna have to grind that foundation. It wasn't that big of a deal. The thing is that we rented all these forms, all of this framing, and so they didn't come out perfectly fine. So that's pretty much the entire process on how to pour and finish. You just got to finish the surface. All the faces of this wall is going to be standard finish, like a typical foundation. So the only work that you need to do is at the top. And that's pretty much the process from start to finish. This is that site plan I was talking to you about. You see on the lower left, you have red, green, yellow, blue on the right, the little circles. And then on the site plan, you'll see where the marks are and just all the measurements, everything is in inches. So this was a site plan that we were using. It was very helpful, very detailed. And then at the very end right here, we're just giving it one final pass through with the float very carefully, making sure that we just have everything nice and even. And then it started raining on us. So the nice thing about a concrete foundation is it's only a very narrow 6 inches area where the concrete is. So we're able to easily cover it with plastic. And so that's what we love to do, foundations and retaining walls and things like that, because we can do this any time of the year, no matter if it's raining or whatever. We just, worst case, we'll just cover it with plastic, put some, pieces of wood on top to keep it secure. And we're gonna wait a couple days. Today was Wednesday, so we're gonna come back on Friday. And Friday, we're gonna spend most of the day to remove all the forms, clean everything up, and that's pretty much a wrap. So you see, that's how we pour and finish a concrete foundation for a 3-leveled house. We really hope you like this video, and consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Activate the notification bell so that way you don't miss out on any future videos that we'll be uploading in the near future. since we do all kinds of concrete work, you know, pouring concrete, setting forms. We're gonna try to get as much of different things as we can. Please like and comment our video. Let us know, you know, we like to get some feedback and whatnot. That will really help us out. May God bless you, and we'll see you on the next video.